Hi there my friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I've just been playing with some watercolours on a piece of hot press watercolour paper by Derwent, and it just gave me time to think about giving ourselves permission to play with our art supplies. This wasn't going to be a tutorial or anything like that. It's just a case of hitting the record button and then just seeing what happens, in the hope that I might encourage or inspire you just to pick up some art supplies and simply have a play. I think when we get into the mindset of we having to create something that's frameable or got to go up for sale, or we're working on commissions, or even if it's your hobby, I think sometimes we get caught in a trap of thinking that everything that we produce has got to be spot on every single time, and it just doesn't give you any freedoms at all. So I thought today I will just grab a coffee, get some paper taped to a board, get some watercolours out and simply play. So I just got some core watercolours, that's QOR watercolours, mix them in a big palette, wet on wet, wet on dry onto this sheet of paper, and then working from the pattern that the paints themselves had produced. I had nothing in mind, there was no plan going forwards, but I decided just to mask a little bit of the paper off like this with some ripped up cardboard and a few sheets of paper, and just added a little bit of texture just by tapping a paint loaded brush over the wetted surface, and it just gives a little bit of texture to the painting. Now if I was in the mindset of this has got to be not perfection, because there's no such thing, but this is something that somebody has ordered or it's going to go into a gallery or something like that, it just takes away the freedom sometimes. I love what I do. There's no two ways about that. I love creating artworks, but sometimes I just need freedom just to relax and explore my mediums and just see what happens, really. So when you've got an hour or a couple of hours to spare, just grab your art supplies, grab a cup of tea or a cup of coffee and just sit and play. Have a movie on in the background or some music on in the background or a podcast or something, and just literally relax into your art materials. So I was really enjoying this process, and as the background colours bled into each other and I'd created that area of texture in the middle of the painting, I decided I would sketch out a lemur. And then I sketched it out on my iPad and then transferred the image from a printout onto the paper. And then again, I just wanted to have a play. I haven't used this paper by Derwent before. It's a big A3 pad. They sent me two. They sent me a box of supplies a couple of weeks ago, and I'm still working my way through them just to see what the papers and the paints and things do. And this shows you that it's just a matter of playing with your materials, because as you can see I'm going on layering up some watercolours, because obviously I'm working with a transparent medium over a coloured background now, so I know that this paint won't cover what's underneath it, but I just wanted to see if it could work in harmony with the colours that were underneath. And as you'll see, some things work, some things don't, but that's just a journey. It's just a mind of adventure that you want to be in. You want to be creative but relaxed and have fun. I mean, that is the main thing, just to sit and have some fun with your art products. I'm probably going to be waffling for 20 odd minutes during this because it wasn't a pre-planned video. I haven't written a script, obviously. I don't do that, but I just wanted to show you that not everything has to be great. You know, things work out, some things don't, and that's fine. That is all part of the process. And as I said in my last video, if we create something and we're not completely happy with it, or we make mistakes in inverted commas, we're learning constantly. Every time you pick up a pencil and draw something, every time you paint something, you're actually putting knowledge into your memory that you can then draw on in the future. So it really doesn't matter whether a painting turns out or not. It's just a case of trial and error. And you keep trying until you find a technique or a solution to a problem that works for you. And yeah, that's it really. So as you can see, I'd applied a lot of layers. I didn't like it, so all I'm going on with now is clear water with a clean brush, dabbing the pigment and lifting it off. And this in itself gave me some more ideas of what I could do with this piece. I've got some fine liners to one side now. I've been and got those out of my storage unit, and I'm deciding now which way to go with this little piece of artwork. And I must admit, because I've put the finished painting to the top right hand corner, I'm really pleased with how this little experiment turned out. He's turned out really cute actually, but if he hadn't, I wouldn't have minded. It would just have been a lesson learnt, and no time is wasted when you're creating. But yeah, so I'm just dabbing everything off. Obviously it won't take it right the way down to the white of the paper because I've already got the layers of watercolour underneath these layers that I've put on, but it does lighten it and it softens the effect of the colours underneath as well. And I'm working from a limited palette. I believe I only used 5 colours in the whole of the painting, plus black and then some white gouache. So yeah, a limited palette. And because I'm mixing everything from that limited palette, at least the colours were working, and I knew the colours would work because of the limited palette. So just dabbing out some more there with a tissue. But yeah, life as an artist, we don't just sit and paint day in, day out, day in, day out. There are other things that need to be done, emailing and things like that, answering questions, providing quotes, all things like that. But this is the part that I personally love, and that's just playing with materials. And even if you don't have many materials, all you need is a pencil and a piece of paper, and then you can practice sketching and composition, everything like that, shading, and pencil control helps with brush control when you come to start painting. And colour mixing if you've got a little set of watercolours, and just have a play. So I'd lifted off as much as I wanted to at the moment, and I decided it was now or never to go in with some line work. So I'm using an edding pen that I've had for donkey's years, and it's still going strong because, to be honest, I don't use them very often, but I just wanted to have a play. So this is sped up a bit because you wouldn't want to sit and watch me do all this. And as I said, I didn't even think I was going to be making a video out of this. But while I was doing this, I just thought of how many people are out there that maybe don't feel as though they have permission to just sit and play with their art materials. And it is something you have to give yourself. It's all right somebody else saying to you, oh, why don't you paint today? Oh, why don't you draw today? You've got half an hour. You like drawing. Why don't you do some drawing? Or if you go on holiday, why don't you sit and paint? Or why don't you sit and sketch? But I think the main thing is, for me anyway, is I have to give myself permission to play. Because when working as an artist, I think your time is caught up. A lot of your time is caught up on making money for your business, and you know that sketching and things like that, playing with your products, isn't always financially worthy, I guess. But then you have to tell yourself again, well, actually it is, because you're building up your skills, you're building up your knowledge. And especially when companies such as Derwent send me products, I know that I have to make time to play with those products. So I do give myself permission to play and use some of that valuable time just to sit and explore what the products can do, what they can't do, how I can bend them to my techniques and to my styles. And yeah, I don't know, it just struck me today that I wanted to share this and hopefully encourage other people just to play with the materials. You don't have to produce something at the end of it. And that's where sketchbooks can come in really useful as well. I know we go on social media and people show off their sketchbooks and they're all full of these immaculate designs and paintings and drawings and things. But a sketchbook can be anything you want it to be. And a sketchbook is an ideal place for sketching out your ideas, sketching out new designs. And you don't have to show anybody. And if you go wrong, you just turn the page and you've got a brand new page waiting for you. So sketchbooks are really good if you want to play with materials and you don't have to show anybody if you don't want to. So I've got some sketchbooks on the go. When I complete my next sketchbook, I will do a sketchbook flip through. But yeah, if anybody else wants to ask questions, or if you like to play with your art supplies as well, then just drop me a message down below and I'd love to hear from you. I do read and reply to all the comments. So this edding pen the ink is waterproof, meaning if I don't like it when I've done it, I can go back over it with paint again and it'll just stay put. So you have to watch that. Some fine liners are water resistant and others aren't. So just going on with a little bit of gouache now. Because gouache is an opaque watercolour, if I apply too much, I can just add a little bit of water and soften it back down. I'm so glad that I left the camera running for this little lemur, ring-tailed lemur. The paper held up really well. As I said, I haven't used this one before. Derwent sent me a huge box of supplies a couple of weeks ago with all different types of paper in and paints and things. And when I took this paper out of the wrapper and applied it to the board, it buckled. But I actually hadn't done anything with it at the time, and my studio isn't damp or anything like that. But it just seemed to start cockling all on its own, which was really strange. Never seen a paper do that before. It's acid free and 140 pound in weight, but it was just weird. So it took a hairdryer to it and it flattened out. During the process of this painting, it did cockle a little bit, but not where the paint had been applied. It was as though the paper surrounding the painted area was cockling slightly, sort of had a very slight buckle to it. But again, I took the hairdryer to it and it flattened out. So very strange, but it's very, very smooth surface, this paper. It's more like painting on a thin cardstock. They do have other papers. The Inktense paper is classed as their cold press paper, and this one is their hot press paper. But I will carry on experimenting with this, with the papers that they sent, and see what I can do with them, how to utilise them best, and then I'll pass all of that info onto yourselves on future videos. Hope everybody had a nice bank holiday weekend. I've been busy today and obviously been busy doing this as well. Looking at that now, I quite like that image if I'd have left it there, I would have been quite happy with it as well, with all the background colours showing through. But that's something I can do on another piece in the future. I already have some ideas of working pieces with a colourful background and sort of a transparent bird or animal on the front. So a little bit like stained glass. Yeah, could have left him like that. I quite like that actually, but I didn't, so I just carried on. I think that's when you're in the zone and you sort of zone out, and I do, you know, keep looking at work as I'm working on it, but I think when you see it on a playback, you see more possibilities than when you're actually sitting working at a painting or a drawing. So I'm putting those little fine marks in there, but I do go over later with a damp brush and just soften all those out. And I do rework the shape of the face slightly towards the end too. So doing something like this, it doesn't take long. The background took possibly 10 minutes, something like that. Then obviously the drying time, I didn't want to use a hairdryer because I needed to know what the paints would actually do on this paper and how it could stand up to being wet for so long, because there was quite a lot of water with the pigments there. It's looking very dulled down in the video, but the colours, core colours, are very vibrant, and the finished painting on the right hand side does show the true colours that are in the background. So I let the background dry by itself and then took a hairdryer to actually flatten the paper back out again. But the paint itself was touch dry. You know when a paint's not dry if the paper still feels cold. If the paper feels back to sort of a normal temperature, you know that the watercolour paints are dry and the paper underneath is dry. I quite like him like that as well, although his face looks the wrong shape because there wasn't enough shading on it yet. So this video is running at about 23 minutes, so not a long one. I did do a poll and asked people if they wanted longer videos or shorter videos or a mixture, and the majority of people wanted a mixture. So I posted one yesterday that's a longer tutorial, that's butterfly in gouache, and then today's unplanned video is just 23 minutes. So just softening those edges with a damp brush. And the paper was fine. The paper didn't peel or pill. The surface of the paper stayed nice and flat. It took the colours and the pigments very well. The colours remained very vibrant throughout the painting process. So I'm happy with how the paper reacts to the paint. It's just a bit unusual how it cockles, you know, by just looking at it. It's just very strange. I might contact my contact at Derwent about it and ask them about it. But so far so good. And as you can see, this is only a little piece, so maybe it's because I only applied the paint to the middle of the paper and the piece of paper was A3, so quite large. Maybe if I'd applied a wash to the whole of the paper, or maybe I might try stretching the paper next time and see if that helps. But it's just the fact that when I got it out of the pad, ripped it out of the pad and taped it to the board, it started cockling already and I hadn't even done anything to it, which was very strange. Going in with some darks now. Could go back in with the edding pen, the fine liner, but using this brush instead. One of my favourite brushes, this Rosemary & Co brush. I'll pop it in the description below. I use it in nearly all of my watercolour and gouache paintings. I'm getting some shading in there. Some of this is worked wet into wet, and some of it's working wet onto dry. And these are all the core watercolour paints. They're quite expensive paints to initially buy, but they are definitely worth it. A lot of pigment goes a long way with the core watercolours. Just random little marks going on there, just to create a little bit of visual texture in the fur. Another thing I did is when I'd sketched out the lemur separately and then traced it to move the drawing over onto this piece of paper, I actually took the tracing paper with the lemur on it and I just moved it across the surface of the painting just to see where I wanted it to be placed, and I also flipped it horizontally so it was facing in the opposite direction as well, to see if that's something I would prefer. So I was looking at the composition by moving the tracing of the lemur around and obviously flipping it backwards and forwards as well, so it was either facing to the left or to the right, just to see where I wanted that placement to be. But to be honest, it would have worked well either way, going in either direction. So going in with some blues there, just to give it a little bit of interest. But obviously I want all the focus really to be going towards the face. So the face ends up more detailed than anywhere else on the lemur. And obviously it's so small that it doesn't really matter. Not so much in this case. And there you have it, ring-tailed lemur in watercolour, after having given myself permission to play. I hope you found this video insightful, or it's encouraged you just to grab a drink, grab your art supplies and just have a play. Please like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and if you have, then a huge thank you. It really helps the algorithm. And if this is something you think somebody else will appreciate, then please feel free to share videos from my channel on other social media settings, or tell your friends and family about them. That'd be really appreciated too. So until next time, I'm signing off now, and I will be back soon. Take care, stay creative. Bye for now. Bye.